Fellow Dominators, I have here 3 spies, human spies, here trying to investigate our tactics. I will take personal charge of each one of these, torturing them as a cunt would, as a cund would,
As a what?
ensuring that they are processed accordingly, correctly, and by the book. Our process. They don't want to escape, but we'll be testing them along the way. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Invasion. I have here, as aforementioned, our 3 spies, and during the course of this book club, I'll be throwing in a few random questions here and there to test their knowledge of, 1, did they do the homework? And then 2, the larger invasion concept of some of the books that were going on at the time, just out of curiosity to see if they know some of these random little trivia pieces, because the course of invasion, which was 3 issues back in 1988, spawned and spanned across a few different books. And throughout those, I pulled different little nuggets of information that I thought were interesting just because the spread of superhero books at the time that were active while this was going on was kind of wacky. And we're going to test some of that knowledge today. For anybody joining us, this is our book club. It's a monthly venture where the 4 of us will hop on and discuss some book. Last month was Pulp, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you have a correct remembrance of what we've read. Yeah.
Well, I was on that one, so I would hope so. And if you like what you guys hear and you want to dig into a little bit more, we have a whole back catalog of recordings of different book clubs. If we don't have one, which I doubt, you'll find a title that we haven't covered. And if not, definitely hop in to recommend. And the best way to recommend us the title would be to join us on Patreon, where as a patron, you get to have your voice heard, unlike the dominance noted in the invasion here. Otherwise, you can join us across the board on our socials, where Discord, Twitter, or actually X was the new one, Threads, Instagram, wherever we are at the Comics Pals. Email us, contact at the Comics Pals, and join us on Saturdays, 10:15 a.m. every single Saturday, EST, to watch us live on our main show where we go over the news, anything going on that week. And then Thursdays, 6 p.m. EST for Pals Pulls, where we go over the week's hottest books. Quite a hot book this one is, huh?
I knew we were talking about invasion, but I did not know we were going to get invaded by the entirety of this book club.
Just you wait.
Feels like old times again, eh, Sean?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Just you wait. With that out of the way, let's jump right in. Prior to us reading Invasion, and this popped up just because we had sort of an invasion theme on the book club this month, but also I'd been doing a reread of Swamp Thing, and part of the crossover of the stuff that I was reading, Invasion actually came across. And so I decided to throw that in as a recommendation for the book club, because I was curious of going back to read some of these older events that were going on. And this was one that I, at the very least, had some tangential information about and wanted to dig in a bit more.
You had the Swamp Thing information. That's about as no information as you could possibly get with also having information.
He doesn't pop up at all in this event, and I was so confused why he even crosses over in the title, and obviously spill over of whatever. And there's a few examples of that, and I'll get to it in some of the trivia bits. But
that's like being a New Warriors fan and being like, oh, I know about Marvel's Civil War. I read enough.
But out the gate, I want to get your guys' opinion on the book. It's, as I mentioned, 3 issues by Keith Giffen, Bill Mantlo, who are the writers and plotters here. The art itself is done by Todd McFarlane for the first issue. The first half of the second, Keith Giffen finishes up the second half, and then Bart Sears, who I'm not familiar with, does the entirety of issue 3. But wanted to get your guys' hot takes on the book out the gate, starting with Tyler, Prisoner number 1.
Prisoner. Okay. I know about Invasion. Invasion, my knowledge of Invasion is as minimal as possible. I know the Dominators. They got those big old cheese heads. And I knew it was like this big alien armada thing, and like I had the context for that. And I think I knew about the metagene stuff too. Had I ever read it? Hell no. No, I never read it. I don't really read books of this time, of this era. It's not really my thing. And even if it is, it's like I'm probably not reading DC. If I'm ever really going back, it's usually Marvel. So this is one of those things where it's like, all right, this is like trivia that I might know about if somebody were to, who was the main, villain of the Invasion, crossover event. I could probably say like the Dominators or something. But outside of it being just a trivia nugget, I had never read this. I didn't know this by Bill Mantlo either until, I read it. Rocket Raccoon Crater, I believe, right?
Yeah.
And I did not know it was McFarlane until I was texting Matt a half hour ago. I had already read it, and I mentioned Invasion to him, and he's like, "Oh, the Todd McFarlane thing." I'm like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah. And
The Todd McFarlane thing.
Yeah, which typical of him to portray it that way. But and then I went back and this pages. I'm like, I can sort of see it. I think Giffen did layouts for everything.
he did layouts for the majority of stuff.
Yeah.
I think 2 and 3 were the big ones in particular, but he did end up doing penciling for the second half of issue 2.
You can definitely tell. I think it specifically the nunts, cunts.
Kuns?
They're called
Kuns?
Kuns, right? Kuns.
Kuns. I'm
God,
pronouncing it as Kuns for the
I heard
for the bit.
coons. No, that's not good either.
Nope, I'm not
actually.
doing that one either.
Don't like
What
that.
are we doing here, guys?
And then, so seeing that, I think it was when there was a shift in art that I realized, oh, this was distinctly a different artist in the second issue. Where it almost threw me off. I was like, that can't be the same. Is that a new general or something for it? But yeah,
Yeah, we'll get into some of those art pieces.
sure. Yeah.
Prisoner 2, Cale.
Similar to Tyler, I know about the Dominators. I've seen most of these aliens through the Legion of Superhero books and various cosmic DC events. I've never read Invasion because it's always been hard to find for me. So I've never I've always wanted to read it, but I've never came across it.
It's out of print, but it was collected a few years back.
Yeah. This other than I think the big meta gene stuff that is planted here. It's kind of a nothing event, really.
Prisoner 3.
So first, I would like to say that this was a book that was voted on by the patrons on patreon.com/thecomicspals. And whatever is about to happen is a result of their decision making.
It's in their hands.
Yes. This, so I didn't know about this event. I didn't know anything about it at all. I didn't know Todd McFarlane was a part of it. And I wouldn't have looked for something like this. But we're here, so I had to read it. And it's 3 issues, 80 pages each, which is insane.
That threw me off.
Yeah,
I was like, oh, three issues. I'm fine. Yeah.
And this is probably the worst event I've ever read. It's probably the worst. Like, I can't think of anything that is this bad that jumps to mind immediately. Yeah, very irredeemable.
Let's start there. What was the most egregious thing for you? Because I think, and I expected as we had read through one on length, one on pacing, and a few other things that we'll get into. As I was reading it through, I'm like, ooh, people are not gonna like this. What was that most like the part that irked you the most?
The nothingness of the event itself.
Mm.
The event is built around an alien invasion. The entire first issue is this insanely plotting, boring ramp up, right? That doesn't have Superman, doesn't have Batman, doesn't have the Flash, it doesn't have anybody you care about. I had to pop for fucking Adam Strange. That's how bare this book was. That seeing Adam Strange was a big deal. And you get into the second issue, and it's like I don't even know why someone would write a book like this, because in my mind, right, and I guess I have 2023 brain, but in my mind, I go, okay, alien invasion, yes, all the aliens, wow, big threat. Then I think about Superman, and I think about the Flash, and I think, okay, yeah, so this is over in about what, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You get a Batman plan in there. They could be done and eating shawarma before the sun is down, and that's exactly what happened.
Hmm.
It's a waste. There's never a second that I thought that anything other than Superman and the Flash beating everybody was what was going to happen, and that's what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I liked the preamble of issue 1. What I didn't like was that that's all that issue 1 was.
Right.
Yeah.
I really, especially in the beginning, I really felt the buildup, and I went, okay, this is interesting. We're getting this conspiracy between alien species. Now what?
Yeah. And
Like
you know what? Wait.
Yeah.
Let's start there with our first question here. I'm gonna go in the same order: prisoner 1, 2, 3, excluding the aforementioned Kunz, and Dominators. Can you name the other aliens involved in this?
No.
Prisoner 1. Let's start.
Not even close. I can name the
Name
Daxamites.
one other one. Daxamite. Okay.
Yeah,
There's
and I can
one.
name the what are the ones that look like sentient colons? What were they?
The Gildish Pond.
Hey, there
Yeah,
you go.
yeah. And
Okay.
there was the Scions, right?
Yep.
And there was the Badoon. Marvel's Badoon just showed up in here. Yeah, I couldn't even tell you the other ones. And yes, I know there are multiple infographic pages too. But
Oh, I didn't read those.
there's too many.
I didn't read those.
And I wanna highlight that. And just for context, the rest of them here are the Thanagarians who come in and join as their air force. The Gildishpan, as previously mentioned, the Durlans, the Warlords of Akara, the Citadelians, Daxamites as mentioned, and the Scions. And I think the fact that this whole event is centered around those things, and we can almost care less about that, I think speaks to the gravity of, or lack thereof of gravity of this event. Is like, who cares? They're consequential. They feel like they feel like pawns on the board that ultimately don't get to shine. And towards the end, after or at least issue 2, after they're sort of pushed back, the alien alliance, as they're so cleverly named, get pushed back. It only ends up being the Kunz and the
Dominators.
The Dominators, because those realistically are our players. And I think that's where this event kind of suffers, where I was excited I like the sci-fi nerdy things of let's name things and just give things names. I'm a fan of those things, so I came into that being like, cool, like I like these guys. I like the way that they're breaking it out, to Cale's point on the preamble, but then they just don't show up. Why do I care? Why form an attachment or try to attach myself to those things? And I think that really hurts the book.
How much of the alien races were in the tie-in titles?
Oh, quite a few. And that was one thing that I was gonna praise. We can get it. No, we're here. They individual stories actually tell them fighting. So, for example, Aquaman fights the Durlans and the Arctic Circle, and there's more there, and there's some cool little nuggets of DC history that I hadn't heard about. And I have a question for Aquaman as well. But those things are cool because they get fleshed out in the latter parts of the story. But it's sad because I need to be sort of reading those, and I think we've talked about how current books suffer from having to go out and venture into those side stories to get the fuller picture. And here, I think it still suffers from that. The event, the format of the event.
Yeah, I think the thing that Sean mentions too is like your big players are still on the board the entirety of this event, and like a lot of the event feels like, oh, look at these D-list characters and how they're dealing with, protecting the Earth. Animal Man has a couple of weird spots in here. Blue Beetle and Booster Gold. Creeper shows up. Omega Man, Doom Patrol. Like that could be a good story. Then write Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman off the table. Like you're doing the book. You can do that. You're the one writing it. So that I think Young Justice season 2 is called Invasion. I don't know if it's Dominators or something similar, but
it's based off of this.
yeah, it's loosely based off of this, and they write off the big heroes right away, and it's the Young Justice that has to deal with that. And I think they do a much better job with that kind of storytelling. Reading this, I was like, oh yeah, this is just to sell books, and this is like, all right,
put books out.
I need to watch Aquaman, the Sea Devils, and Doom Patrol fight a whole bunch of small intestines for a bit.
Man, Tyler, that was one of my questions. I was gonna say, in initial Aquaman alongside the Doom Patrol, when they're fighting the Gildishpan, who do they team up with? The Sea
Sea
Brigade,
Devils, yeah.
the Sea Monkeys, the Sea Devils, or SEAL Team 6?
It is the Sea Devils. You can chalk me out for a point on that one.
Hey, look at that! All right, I'm taking a liking to Prisoner 1. He's well informed over here.
I like to be dominant. Yeah, Young Justice better.
So I wanted to ask Tyler and Cale, you guys have read Annihilation, right?
No, I haven't.
Okay, but Cale, you've read
It's
it.
The Marvel cosmic stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So who were the villains of Annihilation?
It was the Annihilation wave. It was
Right.
can't remember.
Annihilus.
Come on. Yeah.
Yeah. So
He has a name.
the Annihilation wave, though, is like hordes of nameless, faceless villains that no one cares about, right? What made that event special was not the fact that there was an Annihilation wave. That's crazy, and that's cool, and you want to know about it, but that's the force of nature that they got to deal with. What makes an event like that special is the fact that you have these heroes who have a personal mission and a reason to stop this, because this is the worst thing happening in the entire universe at this moment in time. And you feel it. What the hell was I supposed to feel? The first issue, if it was, I don't know, 20 pages, and some of it was dedicated to seeing the assembling of this army, this coalition, and the rest of it was dedicated to like, oh no, what are we gonna do? How are the heroes gonna be able to stop this? If they had some major villains involved who can sell us on the idea that the heroes are in trouble, okay, now we're cooking with something. But there's never any of that. And you don't really care about the personal aspect because there is no personal aspect. It's just, all right, the invading army wants to get rid of the superheroes on Earth because they're worried about what their existence could mean for everybody else. And so that's not even a terrible concept. Like, that's fine. But it doesn't evolve. It doesn't really like go anywhere too compelling. There's no leader of the Dominators. There's no leader of the Kuns. It's just faceless, or not faceless, but like just jobbers.
There's no POV either.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And this is just because of the writing style of the time. But like at one point you're like, oh, is Adam Strange POV? Not really POV, and he's our protagonist for a couple pages. Same for Tigor of the Omega Men.
Yeah.
But there's nothing to latch onto in terms of like where you as a reader should sit. It's a very news report, top down perspective that I just couldn't connect to on an emotional level.
I think the writing style was very much narration based. You know, this is what's going on. This is the moment. And I think that falls. I think that can work in certain situations, but in this case, it reads that news report piece is a really good example or analogy. Is just you're just getting facts thrown at you, and it at the very start of issue 2, there's a series of I want to say 10 pages where it's literally just like. Six panels of information
Yeah.
keeps going and lists it out, maybe even more, 8 panels, and it's just it inundates you with this thinking like, isn't this also cool? When, to Sean's point, yeah, this would be cool if, I don't know, uh what's his face, like Aquaman got hurt, or Firestorm was in the middle of getting attacked because he has some sort of personal stake. Like, there's no marrying of narrative to story to stakes. They feel disparate in the same way that all of these villains or all of these alien races fight all of these superheroes disparately. There's no cohesion.
And I can't even blame it on the time, really, because 3 years prior, Crisis on Infinite Earths came out, and that has stakes and has personal um, anchors to the story. You know, when Wally dies, sorry, when Barry dies, you feel it. You know, when Supergirl has her thing, like, you feel that. So it's been done before when this came out, so I can't even like justify that.
What? And even still, like, you can get collections of Crisis on Infinite Earths that have the whole story.
Yeah, yeah.
That this is 3 separate issues, and none of it is the whole story collected. Because we have the DC Universe app, you can read them all, but it's a whole, you have to go through the whole thing. This should be collected so you can get the whole story. But even still, it's, how many titles in the middle of that? That's gonna, I don't know. You go ahead and just kill us, man. Like,
I'm going to give you a list of quick titles that spanned across, and then the last 4 are going to be 3 of which are actual titles, 1 of which is not. I'd like you guys to call out which one it is. Take a guess.
Oh my god. Okay.
So active titles at the time that actually crossed over with the book: The Flash, Wonder Woman, Swamp Thing, Captain Atom, Power of Atom, Firestorm, Starman, Superman, Detective Comics, Doom Patrol, Suicide Squad, Justice League International. The other 4 are The Spectre, Manhunter, Creeper, Checkmate. Who the fuck are these characters?
Oh, I know all those characters.
You don't know those characters?
I know Spectre and Creeper.
Wait, is this a bit?
No. These are all other titles that
Checkmate?
were running concurrently that or were published in the middle of like their like number 20 whatever issue run. One of those last 4, Checkmate, The Spectre, Manhunter, and Creeper, were not actually in publication. I'm going to start with Prisoner 3 to take a guess at which one was not.
Oh, okay. I see. Because I'm like, I thought there was an angle here.
yeah,
I'll just go with Checkmate.
I think it's Checkmate.
I think it's Spectre.
Is the Creeper that's not on it.
Okay.
They at the time, Checkmate, The Spectre, and Manhunter were all in publication. Manhunter was in the middle of issue number 17, Spectre 23, and Checkmate 9. Like, they had series. Like,
Yeah.
what are these characters?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean,
That's why
They're all great characters.
Are you guys familiar with them?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're the odd one
Oh,
out.
they're
You're
pretty
Mr.
normal,
Mr.
yeah.
Only reads
Oh,
Swamp Thing.
Checkmate?
Checkmate. I've never heard of that person.
It's not even a person. It's a team.
Wasn't Checkmate in the Bendis remember
Yeah.
the Bendis thing?
yeah.
Absolutely. They were the main antagonist of the Bendis Leviathan
Even
event.
Leviathan.
before that.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's what it was.
DC was.
What?
I think was it a Brubaker thing?
Brubaker Rucka. I know them from when Batman Fugitive and Murderer.
Oh man, I'm just laughing because Checkmate was even in oh no, that wasn't
That was Kupperberg.
Intergang
It was
in
Kupperberg. That's who did it.
Black Adam.
Yeah.
But your point on like the way that comics were at the time, like right after this happened, the subsequent issue of Doom Patrol, issue 19, was Grant Morrison's run. Like comics were evolving at that point. So for this to be the event to precede those things feels dissonant and lackluster.
Yeah, I mean, I think we can all call it for what it is. Some one of Tyler or Cale said it earlier. This was just let's make some money because there's nothing here otherwise. Clearly, it doesn't. This event doesn't strike me as something that there was preamble for. It feels pretty self-contained in terms of the idea that similar to Night Terrors, it's just like Night Terrors, which is happening right now. It's just a thing that came out of nowhere that's sort of random and is inconsequential. But I will say this. I don't think an event like this can work in DC because DC's characters are way too powerful. But if you had to do it and you really, really wanted to, I do believe there was a way to make this cool. I think the creative team, frankly, just didn't try hard enough. Or maybe there was an editorial mandate about what they were allowed and weren't allowed to do. But there's so much wasted space. Like everyone coming into this said that I would be annoyed by the amount of dialogue in the book and the amount of word balloons and caption boxes. And yes, it's egregious. It's actually insane. But it's not because it's too many words, which is a problem, but that's not the main problem. The main problem is the wastefulness of the words. The problem is that there are so many scenes where they say in the third issue, "Where's Superman?" Just a panel that asks that same question over and over again. They go back to Adam Strange multiple times in the prison, going absolutely nowhere. How many times do the Dominators say, "Yes, this is gonna work, and we're gonna subjugate the humans, and we're gonna get the DNA out of the superheroes"? It's repetitive. 80 pages each issue, and half at least is just completely wasteful. I skipped so many pages, and I know exactly what happened. I know exactly what happened. And when you can do that, that's how you know. You shouldn't be able to skip any pages. You should not be able to leave the movie for a 5-10 minute bathroom break and come back and know exactly what the scenes were before. You should miss something. I didn't miss anything because there's nothing happening.
In that first issue, there's a lot of like Star Trek, the first movie, space porn too.
Yeah.
Just like, here's 5 pages of spaceships. Like, sure, that's cool.
They're cool spaceships, but
Sure.
like
It was, but it was, it was a lot of it. You know what I mean? like nowadays, that would have been one big double page spread. Show me all the cool spaceships right away. This was multiple pages throughout this 80-page first issue.
That space that could have been used for Hawkman's perspective. How does he feel about the fact that the Thanagarians are invading Earth, considering his role as a member of the League, I assume at the time? That's interesting to me. I don't give a damn about spaceships. Yeah, it's not even a factor.
Is he even in this?
No, but they mentioned that specifically. Like, we've been in contact with
early on they mentioned it,
right, to get his perspective, specifically that, but they don't go anywhere with that because they need the fluff, not that necessarily for this.
when even Brainiac 5 from the Legion is in that first issue and he helps the prisoners escape, but what the hell is he doing in the 20th century? Like,
oh, that's who that was.
yeah, Kolu. Yeah,
right. And this was when I knew for a fact I was done with this book. After Adam Strange escapes the prison planet through the Zeta Beam, after it teleports him to Earth, the fact that they continue to go back to that planet while he's no longer there and show those fucking prisoners, I couldn't believe it. Like, the only reason I cared about those scenes was that Adam Strange was in them. And then he's not in them anymore, and they keep showing these people. I was like, yeah, this is it. This is bad. This is just actually bad.
You're not a fan of Brainiac 5 and Tigor?
No.
Snapper Car? Nothing?
No.
I popped a little for Snapper Car.
I did too a little bit. And when Gnort shows up, I did get a little happy when Gnort showed up. Too.
That was funny.
And even in that same breath, Sean, he finally escapes using the Zeta Beam, which he, has planned on, he knows about, It's all part of his active plan. They catch him again immediately. They're like, "Oh yeah, we know about this. Your Zeta beam technology is nothing."
Actually, there's a tie-in where they just happen to be in like the area of wherever he is. It's all
That's
that was
worse.
pure convenience. That actually was pure convenience.
Yeah, they mentioned that in the issue, and that turned me off even more. Like that was kind of cool, where he's like, yeah, I'm gonna throw myself into this because I know that that Zeta beam is gonna save me.
Yeah,
That was kind of cool, and
yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, so Adam Strange can be kind of the hero, and then he just gets captured again. What a waste! Oh man,
I think one of the uh, Sean mentioned being able to just kind of like breeze through and still capturing the story. At the very least, I think that the art was really strong to be able to carry you through that, because I think you could take all the words out of this, frankly, of any issue, and you'd be tracking. And sure, there were some moments where I think it's exposition heavy, and you just have like these profiles of, let's say, villains or characters or where things are. But otherwise, I feel like the progression of people or aliens getting angry with each other, the infighting, the conversations that happen with even the superheroes, I think those things can get translated visually, and I think they were rendered well.
Todd McFarlane is who he is for a reason. I think, he did a tremendous job. I knew once we actually had to read the book who had worked on it, and it was really cool to see like what I would imagine is pretty early McFarlane work. I don't
Yeah.
I This might sound stupid, but I can't think of any other Todd McFarlane DC work. Am I crazy right now? Is there
Thinking
I
about
something
it.
mean,
obvious I'm
Think
not
so.
thinking
iconically
of?
done
No.
Batman.
Okay, all right. Because I
Yeah, I
was
don't
like,
think so.
damn, this feels weird that this would be the only thing. But
Yeah,
anyway,
Batman he's
Todd
done.
McFarlane was great. He did a fantastic job. It was cool to see his art. I don't think it was perfect. I think his Flash looks really bizarre. And I didn't get any of the like speed factor from his Flash, but the Dominators look cool. They look like um the Mortal Kombat character with the teeth.
Barack Obama.
Look like Baraka. I like that.
uh,
I thought
the
so. Yes, I thought the art was pretty cool. I think the alien designs are great. I did like McFarlane stuff. I thought his human faces were ugly, but I liked it. You know what I mean? Like his Superman was all jaw, really.
Superman got done dirty
Yeah,
from a
a
visual
little bit, but
standpoint.
I kind of liked it because it wasn't what I expected. But reading this digitally, God, I hate digital colors, like recolored books, because I was looking at images of the actual comic on Google, and it's a lot more
Hmm.
muted. It's a lot more like it's printed, and it just looks better. Everything is just bright neons, and it's just I don't like the way that these books are recolored to be, seen in digital. It just irks me.
I
Hmm.
hard disagree with that. I much
It
prefer
did bother
this.
me.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
much
Oh,
prefer
it
this
bothers me in every
vibrancy.
sense. Like Killing Joke, the way that's been recolored. Ugh.
Well,
Well,
that's different. That's been totally redone. Like
A
this I
lot of
think
this
they
has I feel, just to fit digitally. They've not had to do a lot of recoloring. And it just loses its, I
I
don't
don't know.
know,
I haven't
character.
researched that necessarily, so I won't speak to it. But I appreciated the coloring here. I thought it was well done, and it feels like very simple tones. You don't have a huge palette. Your basic colors, and that's it.
Yeah, because they only had so much they could actually print at the time that
Right.
would
Yeah.
work
So I think
properly and was
they
affordable.
with what they had, I think they made it work.
the faces in issue 3. Did you say who did you say
I
did
think
that?
Giffen did
Bart
most of 3.
Sears.
Bart Sears.
Oh.
I've never. I don't think I've ever seen that person's art, but his faces were atrocious.
They all look like
Like I
long.
have there's no love for Guy Gardner over here, and I felt that even through this
That one was bad.
book. But man, he got done. You want to talk about somebody who got done dirty, man?
He looked
It's,
old, so at least we know what Nathan Fillion's Guy Gardner is going to look like. So,
yeah,
yeah.
you're not kidding. But I think this reliance, like you're saying, Marco, that you can look at the art and make that, let it tell the story. I think that's good, but I think, it's good for the art, but that's
Sure.
not good for the overall experience. Like, I'm here to read a book. If I want to look at a book with cool pictures, I'll go find one.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Like, um, it's not uh it's not the experience.
That the comics experience that you're looking for. You can't. You're here to see both work in action, and
Yeah.
there are obvious examples of those. Yeah, that's fair.
Can anyone explain to me why everybody just let Australia get decimated?
That's where the
Straight.
Suicide Squad had to deal with that, right? Were they on
They
Australia
got
duty?
pulled. They got pulled out, but they end up having to deal with it to some degree. Everybody comes in coalesces in issue 2 on that. But yeah, fuck Australia.
Wow, dude. What do you
It's not,
mean?
it's mostly a couple cities. Like, it probably wouldn't be that hard anyway.
Probably just the big rock. What's the big rock called?
Plymouth? I don't know.
Oh
I feel
no.
bad for the
Is there a big
kangaroos.
rock?
Maybe I just have too much respect for Superman and the Flash, but as soon as there's like
Yeah, they
an
were
alien
slacking.
invasion touches down on Earth, doesn't it just end in like 2 seconds? Like I don't know.
And
So-
also, like, Batman does nothing in this.
He doesn't have to. He has
Absolutely
Superman and the Flash.
But like,
Like-
another book, Batman would be inside the ship. Instead, you got Dead Man. Oh, okay, coolest moment in the book though
That was pretty sick. Yeah,
was the
that was
Dead
pretty
Man
sick.
bit. Yeah, he
It
was
came
not
out
in
of
the
nowhere.
book previous.
Yeah,
and this is where some of the tie-in issues make more sense. So Flash had been depowered at the time. In the previous issue leading up to this, he couldn't use his like anything in the Speed Force. I don't know. Superman, they don't have anything there. Batman was dealing with Thanagarians in Gotham, so he was busy. So there are elements of this that take certain players away, but they don't get explained in the main series. And
I
then
mean, it literally didn't even require Batman to do anything. That's how easy it was to deal with this invasion. Dead Man was more effective than Batman. You know what I'm saying?
It's
Like,
Night
that's
Terrors 88 is what it is.
the best Batman moment in the entire book that really solidified this as just like complete nonsense was when Batman is being, for some reason, interviewed for television.
Yeah.
And they're asking him whatever they're asking about Arkham. And he says, "Get that fucking camera out of my
Yeah.
face."
yeah.
I don't think I've
Golden
ever
moment.
seen an interview with Batman before, but that's exactly what he should say on camera.
Goated moment. Amazing. Um honestly, this is I think this is it. The towards the end, the issue 3, after the aliens get beat back, a younger Dominator who was trying to not kill off all of the humans and superheroes devises a bomb in order to basically just affect those individuals that have superpowers, that have this latent gene in them. And the superheroes go back out, they steal the antidote, and then they release another antidote bomb, and all is well. It
Man.
felt.
Go
Go
ahead.
for it.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
What a cool idea. Right? Let's make a bomb that will affect the genes of the superheroes. It doesn't even need to affect like the good ones. But even if we wipe out like 60% of the people who just have like, it'd be like wiping out people with, the mutant gene. Even people who like didn't know they had the mutant gene. Let's make a bomb that wipes out these people. That's such a cool idea. Especially in DC, where the world is built around superheroes.
And this was also used as a retcon to explain the metagene as a thing, right? Because the metagene as an idea didn't exist. So this is a way for DC to explain a lot of that, so they're not convoluted. Like, oh, the Flash had to be in this moment at this place and get the right goo dumped on him. So he becomes like he has like a metagene. So that's how they explain it. Like the lightning is what activates it, and this is like a way of them launching new characters too, I believe, because
To
everyone has
have that
metagene,
flexibility.
That
And
that felt so lame to me. I don't know.
I agree.
I just didn't. I just don't. I don't think that concept, in my opinion, as a DC non-expert, I don't think that concept really works as well as it does in Marvel. Because with Marvel, you've got the mutation,
Yeah.
and it feels very natural. But so many DC characters are godlike. Their powers come from either something like they are an alien, or their powers come from alien, or something like that. And I think it takes away some of the uniqueness of their origins to say like, oh yeah, this one is actually a meta human, but because they got hit by lightning, or but because of this. It's just a little much for me.
And I agree with you, because that's the next thing I was going to say is the way it's all executed is wildly convoluted and inconsistent.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Superman and Martian Manhunter are aliens, so they won't have a metagene. Dr. Fate shouldn't have a metagene. His
Right.
powers come from his helmet, but he's
Fi-
about to blow up.
Right.
Firestorm.
Firestorm, yeah.
You could figure that one out. Yeah.
But I think it to Sean's point, it diminishes that original story, that original origin. It's different.
Right. But my take here is that if they were a little bit more consistent with it and gave it its time,
Mm.
it could have been really cool.
Sure.
Right. Yeah, like if it was fleshed out, if they had a great idea for it, if it wasn't affecting characters like Dr. Fate, then maybe there would be something there. Yeah.
Like, yeah,
And
a metagene bomb is its own storyline. Why
and
is it one issue?
and what was it doing to Animal Man? He was just yelling at the zoo. Like he was just near like a dolphin. Like
Yeah, his power set is so confusing. Animal Man, Animal Man is what people make fun of Aquaman for being.
But
until
He talks to animals.
yeah,
oh.
until Morrison
Oh.
took him over, and then Lemire. But yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because this is what leads like this all this Doom Patrol stuff. This is the kickoff to bring Morrison onto the book.
Mhm.
Like
Was
the
just
stuff
clean
that spawns
slate.
out of Invasion is very good actually.
It sets a clean slate for a couple of different titles, and even launches a few new ones coming out of this as well. In the aftermath of it all, there's the final battle and the epilogue stuff that comes out, and it wraps up a lot of Keith Giffen's old stories. So it actually ends international, restarts with Europe, and Bart Sears continues that alongside. Legion starts, as we mentioned. Doom Patrol continues, and then the Hawk and Dove series somehow spawns out of this as well. But
Yo,
there are
Hawk and Dove series are
consequential.
always just popping up after events for some reason.
but coming out of these, there's a lot that gets developed that is interesting. That this is where the origin for it is. It's convoluted. Sometimes it makes sense, but otherwise, this felt very much like, after doing a bit of the side reading, like Keith Giffen trying to wrap up a lot of his plots in an event to be able to launch another few books.
So it had the stank of editorial on it,
A little bit,
or
seemingly.
line wide stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Final thoughts?
I'd be curious to know how. Well, I'll do mine, I guess.
Yeah.
I would be curious to know how this read at the time. And if people in the Discord like Dan or Hound read it, if they were reading all the titles at once, and I can't assume all three of these issues came out at once. So, maybe the wait for each one combined with the extra issues made it worth reading.
It all came out over the course of 3 months, from October 1988 to December of 1988.
Okay. That's not awful then.
It's three,
Um,
one issue a month. Pretty
yeah.
basic.
Um,
And I
is
wish I wish this is where like the app would allow back matter stuff, because then it'd give you a better context into a lot of these pieces. And I think some of those get wrapped up in the collected like ultra piece, but you can get what you can on the app. But yeah, I'd be interested as well to see how is accepted, especially knowing what comes out after this.
yeah, I think as a thing to spin more stuff out of, is good enough. But nothing of consequence happens here. A couple of no-name Suicide Squad villains and um Doom Patrol characters fight it. The art is good until it's not. And and then there's some cool spaceships, but I'm kind of glad I didn't waste my my childhood money on this.
I mean, that was kind of shade towards Celsius for the Doom Patrol. That's a little rough.
Scott Fisher.
Yeah,
Well,
how
it
dare
should have
you? How
been,
dare you hate on Green Man of the Omega Men?
Well, listen, I poured one out for Green. I'll give
Yeah,
you
it was
that.
really sad. I'm glad it's out of the way. I'm glad I can say I read this. Because I think it is like when you think of like event books, a lot of people mention Invasion. Because in terms of like line wide events, it was kind of revolutionary for the time, from what I know.
Hmm.
Will I ever reread it? No, I can't imagine anything would ever get me to reread it. I think this is just one of those books where it's just like, this is like one of those, it was fine books. Like I don't think it was bad, but I don't think it was good either. It was a very, like, I don't want to say mid because that's like such a negative douchey thing to say. But it was a very like level book for me, that, a bit of a nothing burger. But yeah, that's my take on it.
I struggled with the energy to come into this with. I thought a lot about the fact that, I hate to look back on books and back on creative decisions from so long ago, where people's tastes might have been different, and what was acceptable and considered good back then may look to me like bad now. But then I thought about some of the more mechanical things and some of the creative decisions that I don't think make sense for the time even the time we're talking about. We learned a lot about Alan Moore and Twilight of the Superheroes, which this reminded me of a lot, in that it features an alien invasion of Earth. Um, and that was so much more nuanced and interesting and compelling. And at this similar time, you even have books like Secret Wars, that was literally an event created to sell toys, and it has more depth and intrigue than this does. So I feel comfortable saying that this was maybe a missed opportunity. I think is fair, because I do think there's a good story buried in here somewhere.
Mm.
But certainly it's not a good story, and it's not a well told story. I don't think it's a story that makes sense. And I really feel like it's just a waste. It's just a way to get from point A to point B, which we're seeing a lot of modern events like this now, I feel, that just feel so superfluous. And this is definitely among that ilk. But like I said at the top of this, I genuinely think this is the worst event I've ever read. There's just nothing really redeeming here outside of the McFarlane art, but it's not even all him. So yeah.
I think uh, if we're if we're learning lessons from this into modern comics, and especially the way that we tell event level narratives. I think we've learned the wrong lessons, because this feels a very similar, and we've been bringing up Night Terrors where it feels quick. It feels like the execution isn't all together. The promise of what we're getting lacks the intensity of the idea, and I think that's where this you can see the potential in this and note and feel the lack of execution. And I similar to Tyler, I'm glad I read it for the sake of, looking back at a piece of DC history.
Check it off the
But
checklist.
but am I happy that this was how I came out of it? No, because I was genuinely excited to look back and be like, oh, I'm curious to see what I can get out of this and what I can learn. And surely everybody talks about stuff being great back in the day, but like, we haven't learned shit. We're still doing this to get stories and get the universe from point A to point B, and this feels like one of those events where it's inconsequential. It'll get lost to history. It's interesting that it introduced certain concepts, but beyond that, it lacks staying power and it lacks the weight. So I'm sad about that. Okay, one last question, because I thought this was I'd never heard of this character, but one of Flash's one of Flash's allies in the series at this time was a portly black man. Is his name Chip, Casey, Chester, or Chunk?
Oh God, I hope it's not Chunk.
Chunk.
Chester.
Tyler?
I hope it's not Chunk, but I'm gonna go with Chunk.
It's Chunk.
Oh no! Is that who we? There was a panel where there was a
in green?
big. I thought it was like bouncing lad or something, but he was black, and I was like, oh, okay. We'll go back
Chunk.
to that.
That was Chunk, and during this while Flash didn't have powers, he was helping him out, getting from point A to point B, helicopters, etc. And like,
Did he have power?
No, he's just a dude.
Why was he huge in that panel?
He's just a chunky guy.
No, he was like bouncing lad huge. He was like meta huge.
I don't know.
Nutty professor type shit going on.
That's it for this book club. Thank you guys for tuning in. And for anybody who's interested in, like we did, looking back at some of the back catalog of DC, we have a whole back catalog of other DC books and other either events or stories that we've done that we come off a little bit better from this. We where we can be more excited about, and we get a little bit more in depth. I think this is one of those examples where the payout of the narrative isn't necessarily there, but it's fun to talk about anyway. I think it's fun to talk about anyway. As I mentioned before, we're at the Comics Pals across all socials. Definitely join us on Patreon if you guys like this and want to contribute to the next book club vote, which for anybody listening who is currently part of, we'll put it up pretty soon. Otherwise, for anybody coming on after the fact, definitely feel free to join in, because you get a choice of one of the books that we'll be selecting. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah. Thank you. Until
Next
Cale,
time.
it's your cue.
See you next month.